Okay. 3, 2, 1. Oh!
There you go.
Nice. Alright. Yeah, you can cancel some of the animations.
Welcome back, Guardians, to another Dream Team video, and welcome back to the second episode of Tech, Guardian Tech. I don't know what we're going to call this yet, but you guys killed it on the last video. I was surprised. We got a lot of views on the Warlock Tech video, and by the way, if you haven't seen it, I will put it up here in the upper right-hand corner of the screen right now so that you guys can take a look at it if you haven't seen it yet. That's what inspired this whole mini-series that we're going to be doing here. So today, what we are taking a look at is Hunter Tech, specifically Golden Gun Tech. Now, if you aren't familiar with what tech is, or a technical hit, it's essentially a term primarily used in fighting games as a means of canceling animation or doing something in a fashion that is like borderline a bug. Typically it's like kind of designed around, but Destiny's not really thought of as a fighting game, but despite that, there's quite a lot of tech involved in Destiny. There's actually a lot of elements of fighting game like style in Destiny, and we wanted to explore that here. Like I said, we have a previous video discussing some Voidwalker tech. If you, like I said, if you want to check it out, it should probably still be up there. If not, then I'm talking too long. But let's jump straight into this here with some of the Golden Gun, that solar subclass tech, not just Golden Gun itself, because I know the Blade Barrage is in that category, which we will be covering here. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy. If you do, drop it a like. Subscribe would be absolutely awesome. We are an incredibly small channel, and every single subscribe that we get is a big boost to our morale. It helps us to keep going, to help make this dream a reality of becoming an actual legit YouTube channel. Alright, so the way that this works, if you are familiar, if not, don't worry. The tech will start off easy and it'll get progressively harder as the video goes along. Typically, the harder tech is a little bit more valuable because of how hard it is to perform. It has typically a lot more powerful effects when you're able to get it to happen. I actually noticed that in this video, it might actually be the opposite. Some of the easier tech to do is pretty damn powerful, which is surprising, right? Because like you would see it more often. I just don't think anybody realizes it. But the harder tech is a little bit more niche. But anyway, you'll see the color coordinated graph, or whatever you want to call this here, on the side. Let's get into this here. Let's get talking about this because there's some pretty damn cool stuff in here. Starting off what I'm calling the super dodge. Now, this is, again, incredibly easy to perform, and it's pretty damn powerful. Essentially, what you can do is you can cancel your Hunter dodge, and that works on all subclasses, but particularly because we're talking about the Golden Gun, we're going to be using Golden Gun stuff. You can cancel your dodge immediately into a Golden Gun. Now, the thing is that any type of dodge that has some type of effect, for example, if you have like the Marksman's dodge and the Gambler's dodge, those take effect like frame 1 of the actual dodge itself. So what we can do is if we immediately cancel our dodge animation into the super, we can trigger a whole bunch of stuff to happen. Now, the two things in particular that I found useful for Golden Gun in particular, and you'll be able to use your imagination, and for the sake of length, we're going to include some of the other more obvious tech that's going to come out of this for the other Hunter subclasses in a later video. These, I think, are the most applicable for the Hunter, for the Golden Gun in particular, I should say, is particularly one, running the Wormhusk Crown, and 2, Bombardiers. So what this allows you to do, and it's very easy to perform, all you have to do is you have to dodge, just spam the dodge, and you know, for me it's like circle, for me it's like a R3, whatever your controller setup is, or if you're on mouse and keyboard, it's probably just one button, which makes this even easier. Hit that button, and as soon as you're done hitting that button, like immediately after, like as fast as you can, hit the super button, you know, whatever that may be for you. You'll cancel the dodge, you'll get all of the effects of the dodge outside of the movement itself, and you'll have your Golden Gun animation or your Blade Barrage animation started up. So what you can do with this here, as you're seeing in this clip here, is that you can cancel a healing dodge off of running Wormhusk Crown or a Bombardier dodge immediately into something like a Golden Gun or Blade Barrage. I don't actually have any Blade Barrage footage here because I think Golden Gun's a little bit more useful. You can also do things like run, I'm going to cover this again in a later video, but you can also run things like the Gemini Jesters and get a free disorient for things that are around you and get your super out at the same time. It's more useful on the more melee based subclasses, supers, which is why we're covering it later, but it's something you can do here nonetheless. Like I said, incredibly easy to perform, ridiculously powerful, being that it is basically a free, effect slapped onto the front of your super. All you have to do is be running certain exotics that are already pretty damn strong as is. So there you go. Tech number 2, Break Fall. Just drop and roll. I'm not really sure what you want to call this here. If you guys come up with a better name, by the way, if any of you come up with a better name for any of this tech that we're putting up on screen now, drop it into the comment section down below. I do not get paid enough to think of good names, and I am not good enough at thinking of them as is. So the break fall roll or the drop and roll is a very obvious tech. Again, a lot of this tech seems really easy. I'm just wondering if people do it and I don't realize it, or if I just don't play Hunter enough, whatever the case may be. But here's the gist. If you are a longtime veteran of Destiny 2 PvP, you will know that getting it too high in the air and then hitting the ground can be really annoying because it'll throw your sights like into the floor and then back up, and it's really freaking annoying to do because it's just like it's punishing, the game is essentially punishing you for being too mobile, right? Well, not anymore. If hunters weren't already mobile enough, it's pretty easy tech to do. All you have to do is as soon as you hit the ground, and you can actually start spamming it slightly before, as soon as you hit the ground, spam your roll. And what this will allow you to do is that it will essentially make the time that you're spending doing that whole like long recovery, oh my leg, oh I'm like a soccer player, oh I'm gonna die, you can essentially transfer that into a dodge, which also reduces the amount of time that your sights are down and out, because it cancels that sort of like mid animation deal. And it allows you to be harder to hit because, when you're just hitting the ground as normal after that, really big fall, your sights are everywhere, you're a complete sitting duck, right? But if you do a little roll, you're kind of harder to hit. Not that much harder to hit, but a little bit harder to hit, which is exactly what tech is for. It's slightly better in certain situations. So again, pretty useful, especially in those situations you can see something's going to happen, or you're dropping down from somewhere high and you're going to have a high recovery. You can maybe even use this in PvE to help maybe keep a shot on target. It's helpful. You can see the clips here, pretty nasty if used appropriately, and I'm sure with some of the other tech you might be able to sprinkle in here, because obviously your dodge can be canceled into other things just even off the first thing we've already discussed, so maybe you can combo some tech into one another. Okay, moving along here, some specific tech revolving the bombardiers. What you can do is your explosive knife actually detonates off of the bombardier's explosion. So what you can do with this is, say somebody is rushing you down and you want to get away and possibly deal some big damage to them. If you roll back and then immediately coming out of it throw the knife, you'll get a hang for the timing. But the thing is that because the explosion is relatively large, and your timing for it is already kind of like built in with how everything works in terms of like the animations and everything, you just have to get it roughly close to where that person is. You don't even have to land it on the person. Like you're seeing in the kill feed here that the knife is showing up. That's actually the explosion. There's plenty of times I am flat out missing my friend here, but because the explosion is triggering, the knife is technically getting the kill because it's exploding the knife and the knife is exploding the target. It's a way to guarantee a free kill if they are in that space. Now, again, grant you, it's the bombardier's explosion range that you're having to deal with, right? And your aim for the throwing knife has to be somewhat on point, but it's a possibility. There's always good to have these options open to you, especially if you're the type of person that loves bombardiers. I know a few people who absolutely love the bombardiers, and I think they're a really cool exotic. This is a really cool way to get a really flashy kill on somebody, or even if you don't kill them, do a lot of damage that they're not quite expecting. The bombardiers can already do stuff like that for you, and this is a way to follow it up for even more damage for free, especially if you are running the gambler's dodge, which gets you your knife back. All right, moving along here. I don't know if you can consider this tech. We were able to get it relatively consistently doing a certain number of things. We're going to call this overburn, or you want to call it backburn. I'm not really sure. This is a weird one. So we've noticed that on Middle Tree with the Blade Barrage, the 3 throwing knives that you throw out on certain player models, the burn will be intensified. I'm sure you've experienced this before where the burn will just randomly just be like way more than it should be. You're getting way more than 3 stacks of burn. Well, it seems to be something to do with the geometry of that player and that player model. The interesting thing is that does not seem to work. What we're doing here does not seem to work on hunters. We've tried it a few different times. We're able to consistently get it to work on titans, especially titans, and sometimes warlocks. Now, the way this works is that it has a very similar idea of the backstab back in D1, where essentially if you are behind somebody and they're not looking at you, you can get the knives off and it'll deal a lot more damage than it is supposed to. The burn will trigger an immense amount, way more than it is supposed to, and it allows for a really easy follow-up or even a kill. And of course, when you burn somebody, you get your knives back and your dodge back as well. So hey, maybe you can get yourself a free kill off of this, especially if you are able to tag somebody. Now, if you're looking at somebody head-on, because you might be thinking to yourself, Misum, I don't typically shoot my targets in the back, and if I am, I'm not worried about trying to burn them in some kind of fancy manner. Well, let me propose something else here to you. If you hit them at their arm or on the side, kind of, they're not quite looking at you head on, or if you throw it at their feet, for whatever reason, like shoot them toes, like throw the knives at them toes, it'll actually cause this similar burn effect. It is not nearly as consistent as if you were to hit them in the back, but it can trigger it nonetheless. Very powerful if you're able to get it to land. Just something you can sprinkle in here and there. Maybe you can actually get some extra kills off of it. I know that the burning knives don't typically get kills in the Crucible. Maybe you can get it more consistent this way. All right, moving along. This is more along the lines of bugs territory, but it is something to throw in here as something you could possibly do. Think of this, we're gonna call this the reverse wombo combo. We can maybe call this the solar wombo combo. And here's how this works. The swarm grenades, the grenades that when you throw them down, put out those little nanites in the air that if somebody walks through them, it tracks them for a while. Those actually count as a target for your burning knife on the middle tree. Again, middle tree having a little bit of jank involved. So here's how this works. So if you're able to hit one of your little nanites in the air with a throwing knife, it will trigger the burn effect. Now, that can be pretty useful because it allows you to get an extra stack on something that you weren't planning on getting before, while still being able to deal about the same amount of damage, right? So what you can do is you can throw the grenade first and then the melee second, which wombo combo is typically melee then grenade. So you can throw a grenade and then the melee, and even if you're not intentionally aiming for one of the little nanites, which those little suckers are hard to hit, let me tell you, but maybe if you're not even intentionally aiming, maybe you just wing them by chance, right? Especially if the target's running through them and they're kind of zipping around the person. Maybe you can get an extra stack of burn for free. It's something to keep in mind. Like I said, it's somewhat difficult to land, but it is something that can improve the gameplay a little bit. So if you're ever in a situation where you really need to just like zone something off really hard and really fast, just like a wombo combo does, do the reverse of the wombo combo, the solar wombo combo. And there you go. You've got yourself an extra burn stack on top of your reverse wombo combo. All right, we're getting to the end of this here. We're going to talk about the hardest ones to do, or more specifically, I should say, the more niche things that can happen. So let's start off with this one here. FPS dodge. First person dodge. You can actually dodge in first person. Now it is difficult to pull off. The timing on this is incredibly tight, and I was only able to get this somewhat consistently after a lot of practice here. So something to keep in mind if you're on mouse and keyboard. I'm sure this is a lot easier, but here's the gist of how it works. If you're ever in a situation where you're in a tight space and third-person camera might not be the way to go, or you really need to come out and immediately start just pounding somebody with your gun, like it's those half a seconds or so make the difference, and you need to be able to see where your sights are going to end up, this is the tech that you are going to need. So here's how the first-person dodge works. When you're doing the initial dodge, which for me is, again, to press the crouch button twice, as soon as that dodge animation starts, so as soon as you are still in first-person camera and starting to go into third-person, both aim and fire at the same time. What you'll end up doing is kind of just like shooting out a shot, just random little bullet. I was doing this with an SMG, but you can do this with anything. It'll just fire off this random little shot, which again, maybe it's just free damage on top of it, but when you do your dodge, if you've done it right, your camera will move as if you're doing the dodge, because your camera will kind of bob left or bob right, depending on what dodge direction you're going, but you'll actually stay in first person. Again, this can be added onto a whole bunch of different tech that we've already done, which makes things interesting for certain things that are dodge-related tech. But again, this can be useful if you're in a situation where you really need to make sure that your sights stay on the target, or you're able to, you want to have that adjustment ready to go on a faster fashion. Maybe it's a closed space and going third person will just throw your camera off. Whatever it may be, if you're ever in that situation, there's how you do it. First person dodge is just like that. Once again, you're going to dodge, and as soon as I'm talking like the first few frames of the dodge start, you're going to both hit aim and fire at the same time. You'll know you've done it right because you'll, dodge in first person. You'll see it. It'll be a little weird the first time. And lastly, now I'm sure you've seen this before if you are a fan of PvP content in the Crucible, this is the Cami Mine. I don't even know what he calls it, but it's the Cami Cakes Mine. Essentially, you throw a proximity mine into the air on a target who's behind cover. I will say this is in particular very difficult on console, just because it's hard to line up that shot because you don't have as much control. But throw a proximity mine into the air and then shoot it out of the air. You can get an instant explosion which can tag people behind cover if they're in an angle where the proximity mine may not trigger. Again, difficult to pull off and a bit niche, but can be extremely powerful because it's essentially like throwing, it's essentially like shooting a fighting lion grenade, right? The timing is tight and you do need a weapon that is precise, or at least fast, so that you can get to your aim and your fire relatively quickly. But that is the gist of all the tech here. The Hunter tech, I will say, was a bit more difficult to locate. I wanted to start with Golden Gun because I think that would be the hardest, and I wanted to challenge myself a little bit. I think the rest of the tech here, I've already got some lined up for the next few videos here. We are going to be doing Titans next. If you have a subclass in particular that you want us to take a look into to find some tech for, or if you have some tech of your own, maybe that wasn't covered here, or is on a completely separate subclass, drop it in the comment section down below. It'll help us out. We'll even shout you out in the video if it makes it in. So be sure to let us know here. Other than that though, I hope you guys enjoyed these clips. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you found a lot of this useful. Be sure to stay safe during these times. I know it's crazy times that we're dealing with right now. Don't get sick, stay indoors, wash your hands, God bless, and deuces.